Liverpool got back to winning ways last night as they beat Wolverhampton Wanderers 2-0 at Anfield to move up to 6th in the Premier League table, which leaves the Reds 6 points behind Spurs with a game in hand. In today's video, we'll discuss the 5 things we learned from the match, whilst also discussing why Liverpool broke yet another record this season. Not only that, but we'll also discuss all the latest Liverpool news from the last 24 hours. There is so much to cover in today's video. And hello everybody, welcome back to the channel guys. Before we get into today's video, as always, please do smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily Liverpool content. Sadio Mane says he's convinced that Liverpool will overcome their struggles this season, with Jurgen Klopp definitely the right man to lead them forward. After 6 hugely successful years at Anfield, Mane made the decision to leave Liverpool for Bayern Munich last summer. His exit has coincided with the club's worst season under Jurgen Klopp to date, with the Reds currently in 6th. Klopp himself has acknowledged that changes are on the horizon this summer, and despite concerns in some quarters as to whether Liverpool will bounce back, Mane says he's convinced this former side will rise once again. He said, "Liverpool will be back. I'm convinced they will overcome this situation. They had many injuries and the tough tests, but Jurgen Klopp is definitely the right man. He will lead Liverpool back up from this season. The players love him." Mane has only recently returned from a leg injury that kept him sidelined for 3 months and led to him missing the opportunity to captain Senegal at last year's World Cup. To date, he has 11 goals and 4 assists in 24 appearances for Bayern Munich and is pleased with how his time in the Bundesliga has gone so far. He said, "I never had doubts. When I decided to leave Liverpool, I only wanted to go to Bayern Munich, to the Bundesliga. I know the league from my time in Salzburg. I didn't watch the Premier League back then, but the Bundesliga. Bayern was very attractive to me back then." Liverpool made a pre-tax profit of £7.5 million last season, with rocketing off-the-field costs reducing the overall benefit of £107 million increase in revenue. In a campaign in which the club came within 2 matches of winning an unprecedented quadruple, finishing with an FA Cup and a League Cup double, revenue rose to a record-breaking £594 million. That was back to pre-pandemic levels and resulted in a first profit in 3 years, with the accounts coinciding with the first full season without any coronavirus restrictions. However, with inflation running in excess of 10% and against a backdrop of a European energy crisis, the club's utility costs have doubled in the last year. Administrative expenses increased by £69 million to £545 million due to the increase in salary costs and matchday overhead costs. Managing Director Andy Hughes had this to say: "Some of the numbers in the latest accounts look slightly skewed as a result of the previous reporting period being impacted by the global pandemic. However, the underlying strength of our financial position remains strong, and we continue to operate a sustainable club, which is our main objective from a financial perspective. It was really great having supporters back at Anfield and returning to some sort of normality after a really challenging period for everyone. The cost of running a football club does continue to rise, but we maintain our position of growing this club with a significant investment, with new and existing players signing contracts, and the construction of the new Anfield Road stand, which we look forward to coming on stream in the summer. In the last 5 years, we have invested over £250 million in infrastructure and created world-class facilities for our players, staff and supporters. During the year, Liverpool signed 7 new players, including Luis Diaz from Benfica for an initial £37 million, and youngsters Fabio Carvalho, Ben Doak and Bobby Clark. Jordan Henderson, Harvey Elliott, Konate, Andy Robertson, Alisson Becker, Stefan Bajcetic, and Diego Jota also signed new long-term contracts. The figures put into context how important the money from the Champions League football is to the club's overall financial health, which makes qualification for next season's competition so important. The club took a big step in the right direction to achieving that, as they beat Wolves 2-0 at Anfield, as we mentioned in the intro, rising to 6th place, just 6 points behind 4th place Spurs with a game in hand. In this part of the video, we'll discuss the 5 things we learned from Liverpool 2, Wolves 0. Konate back. Virgil van Dijk recently returned from injury, and the battle to partner him could begin again. Joe Gomez had 1 good game, 1 bad game, and then got injured. Joel Matip has been poor, so hasn't had a chance to stake a claim. So yesterday it was Konate, back from his own absence, who returned into the lineup. He doesn't yet look as good as he can do, but the number 5 season has been so stop and start that it's expected. Even so, good pace and strength when it was needed was a welcome sight, as was his aerial dominance. The midfielder has been a more problematic area of the team with regards to stopping Liverpool conceding goals compared to actual defenders. But even so, the number of individual mistakes this season has been sky high, so having Konate back is a huge boost. New look midfield again. Another day and another new midfield. After the absolute desperation of Saturday's performance against Crystal Palace, Jurgen Klopp this time turned to youth in the midfield third. Stefan Bajcetic and Harvey Elliott paired as the number 8s for the first time, with Fabinho sitting behind them. First, it's worth noting the Brazilian's performance. There's not much other way to describe this season so far, apart from being brutal. But here against Wolves, he was far more proactive and adventurous in the attacking half, pressing high up the field and winning the ball in dangerous areas more than once. Defensively, he certainly played better than most recent games, not perfect, but a step forward and very harshly booked for once. As for the two teenagers returning, Elliott was impressive in spurts, 3 times getting into dangerous areas as chances fell his way. Spanish midfielder Bajcetic was in and out of the game, but played an important recovery role against counters, largely being sensible after his soft early booking, although some of his passing was wayward. It was better overall showing from the trio compared to recent weeks, though naturally for a brand new lineup there were a few gaps and miscommunications too. 4th consecutive league clean sheet. Liverpool have been anything but consistent so far this season, but something they were consistent with for the majority of this campaign was gifting goals to the opposition. However, last night's win over Wolves marks the club's 4th consecutive league clean sheet, which is a huge positive and shows something is being done behind the scenes. The Champions League chase is on. No point pretending otherwise now. The Reds' route back into Europe depends on a top 4 finish. This year's European adventure will last precisely one more fixture, barring a miracle. So the state of play in the Premier League following this win, the Reds go 6th, above Fulham on goal difference, 2 points off of Newcastle in 5th, and 6 off Spurs in 4th, but with a game in hand over the North London side. Consistency will be all that matters in a very short order. Over the last 4 matches now, the Reds have taken 1 point more than Spurs over the same period. Small margins, but that's what will come down to after game 38. We've already beaten Newcastle twice and Spurs once. With Antonio Conte's team coming to Anfield in late April, we need to still be in touch by then. Anfield will play a big part going forward. A week or 2 back, Anfield was rocking for the derby. Soon after, it was bouncing pre-game and 20 minutes into the Champions League tie against Real Madrid, but the subsequent 70 left the stadium deflated. That continued into the trip to Palace, albeit with the Reds as a minority of course, and then into the earlier period of this game. The performance was as flat as the atmosphere, a bit of a concern given Liverpool need to make Anfield their guaranteed points from now for the rest of the season. It's always a trade-off in who sets the spark, the fans or the team, but if the energy was easily destroyed by a big defeat, hopefully it will be just as quickly restored after a fairly routine win. Given it's Manchester United set to visit Anfield this weekend, it's likely we will need it. Liverpool fans, what did you make of the performance last night against Wolverhampton Wanderers? And do you think we'll get top 4? Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section below. That brings us to the end of today's video. Please do smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily Liverpool content. Thank you, and I'll see you all next time. Take care. Peace.